Have you ever wondered what your life could look like if you actually chased your goals? If you started that business, published consistently on YouTube, and got serious about changing your life? Now, if that is you, you're not alone. Studies show that over 80% of people set goals every year and then drop off within the first 30 days. Gen Z, especially, also report record levels of distraction, burnout, feeling stuck in life, and not knowing what the heck they're doing. So when I saw this new trend blowing up on TikTok called the Great Lock-In, I was like, you know what? It's about damn time. Even Cal Newport, deep work daddy, noticed. And so you know it's gonna be at the start of a movement here. And I had to pay attention. Honestly, when I look back at my life over the past few years, I've actually relied on these great lock-ins over and over to accomplish the things that I have. Like going hard on this YouTube channel, growing to over 1 million subscribers in 3 years, to launching a business from scratch with 0 prior sales experience. And again, I'm doing it right now as I'm building the most ambitious project of my life in Creator Company. So in this video, I wanna share exactly how I've approached these lock-in seasons so that they actually move the needle in my life. And so you don't end up just giving up 1 week from today. And I think the best place to start is understanding why most people fail these lock-ins, because I learned these lessons the hard way, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes. So a little context for anyone who's new, I'm Matty, by the way. I was a medical doctor. And for years when I was in medical school, I kept telling myself that I really wanted to start some kind of creative project. And for me, it was actually music. So I posted songs on SoundCloud and Spotify under the moniker Cajun Koi for quite a few years. And I had all these big goals with it. I wanted to put albums out every few months or so. I wanted to create this vibe and eventually even maybe go tour one day or play shows. And I always said to myself, if I just had a little bit more time, a little bit more energy, more motivation, then maybe I can make it work. And as a result, treating it like this side hobby, this side hustle, never really got anywhere with it. But ironically, it took the biggest lockdown in history for me to actually lock in. Because in 2020, halfway through med school, the COVID lockdown happened. And all of us were sent home for who knows how long. Suddenly I was cooped up at my sister's house with my brother, and we couldn't go anywhere. We literally couldn't do anything. And that was when I learned the most important lesson about locking in and changing your life. If you want to change your behaviors, then you have to start with changing your environment first. Like physically for me, I had to leave medical school and go home so that I could change my behavior. That was a big moment for me because now all of a sudden I didn't have to go to the hospital. I didn't have to go to work. I didn't have friends who always wanted to hang out and go drink and go party on the weekends. There was no distractions around. And suddenly it was like this perfect opportunity to be like, all right, let's actually lock in. But changing your environment is really just one piece of the puzzle. There were a lot of people like me who used this lockdown to lock in and achieve more than 3 months than most people do in 3 years. But there are also a lot of people who did the opposite. Maybe they spiraled, maybe they put on a lot of weight, maybe they receded into these bad habits and didn't change their life in a meaningful way. I realized it wasn't just about changing the environment around you, it's also about changing the environment inside of you. Now, if you're watching this video, you're already miles ahead of everybody else because you are here to change your life. Whether that's to build a business, whether that's to get in the best shape of your freaking life, or what I believe is probably one of the smartest things you can do is to start a YouTube channel and build a personal brand. And if that's something that interests you, definitely check the links in the description below because we have built a free tool to help you figure out what kind of profitable niche would best suit your channel. But my point is, if you want to make the Great Lock-In successful for you, you have to identify first, why do you want to lock in? And that's honestly why most people fail these lock-ins, because they don't have a really good reason for why they want to do it. They see it as this like, I have to suffer for 3 months and then I get to go back to being the person that I was. But really what worked for me is not treating it like a challenge. Those 3 months when I was locked in at home with my brother, we took it as this is gonna be the beginning of our channel. This is gonna be the beginning of building a system for YouTube that is going to extend beyond that time. That we're gonna be able to post videos consistently for 3 or 4 months so that by the time that lockdown ended and I had to go back to school, we would continue doing it. And it was because of lockdown that I got obsessed and into YouTube. Like I said, I wasn't ever planning on starting YouTube. I always thought it was just gonna be music, but Mike really wanted to do YouTube. And so I joined him on this adventure because I just put my music into the YouTube videos. So in essence, I was still making music. I discovered that I really liked making videos because if you've never made videos before, or if you've never posted consistently, you don't know if you're gonna like it or not. This was like just a learning opportunity for me to discover, is this something that I would wanna continue doing? And I fell in love with it. 6 years later, I'm still posting videos. We still make them weekly. We actually make more videos now than we ever have before. And it all just came from locking in and setting a goal that we were gonna post videos every single week and then just see what happened. What I'm saying is after that first lock-in period, those 3 to 4 months when I went hard on YouTube with my brother, I became a different person because from that day forward, we made a commitment that we were gonna keep posting weekly videos until the end of time. So set a really clear goal for your lock-in right now and make it very clear what it looks like to accomplish that goal or not. There are so many reasons why this is important because it really forces you to build your life around achieving that goal instead of trying to fit that new project or that new goal into your current life. All that to say, that first lock-in really changed my life. It established me as a creator because I was posting weekly videos and growing a YouTube channel. And honestly, by the end of medical school, we had grown our channel to over 200,000 subscribers. I was making more money side hustling on YouTube than I would have as a resident psychiatrist for 4 years. And it left me in a very interesting predicament. I was about to graduate from medical school, something that I've been working towards for like the past 10 years of my life. But it didn't feel the way that I thought it would. I remember, the only thing I could think about was when I start residency, it's gonna be so much harder to keep making YouTube content. I didn't wanna stop making videos, but I also knew that I couldn't do both YouTube and medicine at the same time. And I had to make the most important decision of my entire life. Do I walk away from medicine or do I walk away from YouTube? It was basically one or the other because I only had so many hours in a day and you can't half-ass things, you have to go all in. This was 10 years of my life, undergrad, taking the MCAT, going to grad school, medical school. I was hundreds of thousands of dollars invested into this journey. Everyone expected me to become a doctor. Like, who walks away? It disappoints their family, especially their Asian parents. But looking back on it now, this is what I've learned. You can't build a new life or change your life if you still have the option and escape routes to go back to your old one. You have to go on and remove all of these different choices in your life that hold you back. There's this famous book called The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz. And in that book, he talks about the psychology of how our brain works. When we have options, our brain goes through these mental calculations and it's wired to overthink, overcomplicate things, and create this analysis paralysis trap. And for weeks at a time, all I could think about was this anxiety. And it wasn't until I just put my foot down and just committed to going all in on YouTube that just disappeared. You have to remove all distractions from what you're trying to build so that you can lock in. That moment right there, walking away from medicine, triggered the start of my second great lock-in. I had a new goal, which is to figure out how do I turn this YouTube thing into a sustainable business. And honestly, it came from desperation and it came from fear because I had burned that bridge before. I couldn't rely on that nice $300,000 salary that I was going to have if I did residency. Now I was on my own. And if I didn't make this work, I might be a homeless man on the street with an MD. And so I felt a lot of pressure to make this thing work. And that was actually a really important piece to making my lock-in successful. A lot of people think that you need motivation. That motivation is the answer. Like, I'm not motivated, I'm not inspired to take action or lock myself in. But I realized that's not the case. You're not lazy. None of us are lazy. All you need is a little push. Now, my push was a bit more of a shove and a sink or swim moment because I was backed up into a corner. I had moved home from medical school, I had an MD, I was in debt, and I was living in my parents' office. And I remember those days so clearly. Like, my adrenaline was pumping. I was nervous and scared every single day because what if this doesn't work? What if I made the biggest mistake of my life? But at the same time, I remember laughing at my situation. I was almost 30 years old. I was a doctor and I was sleeping on a fold-out futon in my dad's office. And I was like, what is my life right now? And I was laughing because it finally hit me. I was like, this is what hard feels like. This is what life is gonna be like if you don't make it work. When you're in pure fight for your fucking life mode, you can do things that you never thought were possible because you literally have no choice. But it was that single decision of removing my safety net, of burning the bridges of going back to med school for that year that forced me into the next stage. And so now there I was, I had complete freedom to pursue this YouTube thing and make it work. I thought I was gonna be so productive. I had no more tests to take. I had no more exams to take. I didn't have to be in the hospital at 4 a.m. to go around on patients and stuff. And so I was like, I can spend all of my time getting immersed in this journey. The funny thing is, my productivity didn't increase. And I realized it was because I had lost structure and I had more time to make it work. So I actually moved slower. I've since learned that this is called Parkinson's Law, where our work expands to fill up how much time we have. If you want to make a great lock-in successful, you need to have rules. You need to have some kind of structure for your day. And so I remember very distinctly that summer, Mike and I got together and we developed what we call daily non-negotiables. Every single day, with no exceptions, what are the things that we're gonna do to make sure that our lock-in is successful? 3 hours of deep work in the morning, go to the gym, have breakfast, 3 hours of deep work again, and then film for a couple hours. That was technically deep work, but not really deep work because, talking to the camera and creating content is different. And then just rinse and repeat that process every single day. And as a result of that second lock-in, which I did with my brother Mike, our YouTube channel went from 200,000 subscribers to over 1 million subscribers in less than a year. Less than a year. Because literally all we did during that time was just wake up and follow those non-negotiables. Get those hours in, get those reps in, and build. I didn't go out. I didn't go party. I didn't hang out with my friends. I didn't see my family. I didn't do anything except for follow the non-negotiables that I had. Now, having done many of these great lock-ins, the hard part isn't working 15 hours in one day. The hard part is making sure that you can do that on repeat, day after day after day. Most of us can actually lock in for a week. 1 week isn't hard, but what about week 2? What about week 3? What about week 5 when life starts to punch you in the face? Maybe your video editor decides to quit and somehow lost their project files and you have a sponsor deadline coming up. So you pulled an all-nighter editing a video from scratch just to make sure you meet that deadline. Or maybe you just wake up in the morning exhausted, like those last 5 hours of sleep didn't even replenish your sleep at all. And you're just like, damn, I'm tired and I want to give up. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's always in those exact moments that every excuse that you've been hiding in the back of your mind just come flooding back. Maybe I should take a break. Maybe this is going too fast. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm pushing myself too hard. That is your brain trying to convince you to quit. But what you do when you experience that will change everything. There's an amazing concept, which Nassim Taleb wrote a book about, called anti-fragile. He talks about systems that don't just survive stress, but they get stronger because of it. Like when we experience trauma and then our body heals over it and forms scar tissue. And that tissue is actually stronger than the original tissue. That was the reframing that helped me stay locked in during these moments of stress. Most of us build habits for the good days, when things are going easy, when we have all the time in the world. But you need to build and forge those systems during the bad days, during the hard times. Because if you can accomplish it when things are hard, then when things get easy, it's only gonna be that much better. So instead of avoiding the pain, I leaned into it. Instead of sleeping in because I felt sick, I got up because I felt terrible. Get into the habit of doing hard things because it feels bad, not because it feels good. Because every time I chose to do the hard thing when I didn't want to, I felt better about it afterwards. And I knew that that was my system getting stronger. And you know what happened? By the end of that lock-in, things that used to break me, that used to bother me, didn't really register anymore. My pain tolerance went from here to like here. And that's the thing that I think not enough people understand. Stress doesn't weaken us. It reveals what's important and actually makes it stronger. But you have to be willing to do what feels hard and suffer and show up anyways. If you're still watching this right now, there's still a couple months left before the end of the year. Let's lock in, guys. Set your goal, make those daily non-negotiables, and then stick with it even when it gets hard. If you need a goal, maybe I'm biased, and if you've been watching this channel, I think that everyone right now should think about building a personal brand or starting a YouTube channel. And it's the creators who establish themselves right now who are gonna have a huge advantage over everyone else. And so if you wanna get locked in with us, that's why we created the YouTube production system. We're about to open up some spots before the end of the year. And if you wanna see exactly how I'd build a YouTube channel from scratch that can make money from day one, then you definitely wanna check out this video right here.